I'm Laura Bonnell, and this is the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast coming to you from Detroit. Please subscribe and even rate and comment on our podcasts when it moves you. I learn something new with every podcast, and I'm always inspired by the people that are showcased here. We don't give medical advice. You need to connect with your doctor for that. I hope that this Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast educates you and sparks some volunteering or advocacy. The CF community needs people like you. Thanks to our sponsor, Viatris, for their support. Today we are joined by Pete Proimos, founder of the Filotimo Foundation and a fierce advocate for those living with cystic fibrosis. Diagnosed at birth, Pete has spent a lifetime navigating the complexities of cystic fibrosis while reshaping what it means to live fully with a chronic illness. He's built a nonprofit that not only supports individuals and families, but also challenges the stigma surrounding invisible conditions. Pete's personal philosophy, Out at 40, reflects both a quiet resilience and a bold reclamation of identity, marking the moment when he decided to speak openly about cystic fibrosis. And since then, his journey has inspired many and fueled a mission rooted in compassion, empowerment, and truth. And we'll talk today about living beyond expectations, the complication or the complicated reality of disabilities and invisible illness, and how Pete's work with his foundation is helping build a stronger, more connected CF community. Pete, thank you so much. Excited about this podcast with you. And you didn't publicly share about we're getting right into it, but you didn't publicly share your diagnosis until you were about 40, which is a little different, I would say, than most people's decisions. Some kind of just slowly tell people and then let more people in. But why did you make this decision to not share it really until you were 40? And how old are you today?
I'm 40. At 39, I really started letting people know, and I'll tell you why. But yeah, it took 39 years.
And why was that?
Well, Laura Bonnell, I'll tell you why.
Thanks, Pete.
I was diagnosed when I was 6 months old. We were living in Indiana at the time, and my dad tells this story about when I was about 4 or 5. We went to a doctor's appointment with a pediatrician in Chicago, and the doctor was one of the leading pulmonologists in the country at the time. We just got lucky. And what ended up happening was the doctor said, look, your kid's fairly healthy. He's pancreatic sufficient at the moment. His lungs are fairly clear. Just have him live like a normal child. I mean, at that point, they told my parents, if he makes it to 18, be grateful. We don't know what the diagnosis really means right now in 1984, but just have him live as normal as possible for as long as possible. Because for all you know, anybody could get hit by a car tomorrow morning before any of this ever comes up. So they left there and they didn't think anything of it. And then evidently my parents set up the next appointment and we got a different doctor because that doctor had been hit by a car and died.
Oh my gosh.
So they took it as like
horrible.
I know it's horrible, but it was like divine intervention of like, okay, well, if I was looking for a sign, that's a sign. We're just not going to tell anybody until we have to. Right.
Gotcha. Wow.
And then, you know better than anybody as a parent, you don't know what to do. There's no right answer. Do you keep it quiet so they can live normally? Or do you get in front of it and say like, no, we're not ashamed of it. We celebrate it and we're honoring it and we're trying to find a cure, which is what you've done. I mean, that's definitely the road you took. And essentially what happened was, I'd get a cough and then when you're 8, 9, 10 years old, you don't want people to notice it. So you would hide it in order to have friends or to not feel like you're sick. And then obviously when you turn 15, you want to date, you want to meet people, you want to socialize a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
cliques start getting incorporated, and it gets tough, right?
Right. People really do freak out about coughing,
Yeah.
especially since COVID, but even before then, it just, that germ factor of coughing freaks people out.
I remember being out of the state on a class field trip, and I was coughing, and I coughed something up, and I grossly found a bush, and I spit into the bush because I didn't know what to do. And I just remember like the
Looks.
mom looking, and then the mom, she didn't stop staring, and I just kind of walked away from it. But then that night, her son, she was chaperoning the trip, and other parents
Hmm.
were. I remember that her son grabbed my drink to go drink out of it, and she grabbed it from him, and she
Uh,
was like, "No, no, he's sick. Don't go near it." And so there's little stuff like that where it's hyper sensitive to me, but other people don't know about it. So there's that as well, right? So now I'm 17. Uh, my parents, when I was 15, probably, my parents decided that maybe he's going to go past 18. Maybe there were new therapies at the time. New personalized medication started where it was getting more focused on the patient case by case.
mhm.
So college was accessible. Now, the life expectancy went up to 25 in the 90s. So we said,
But to point out to people, the life expectancy didn't go up for you. It
right,
went up for those people born, yep, at that time.
at that
Yeah.
time, right. So am I on borrowed time? I don't know. All I know is now, like, I'm a hormonal teenager that is freaking out about anything. And you go from 18 and now you're like, well, I want to go to college. I don't want to miss it. And all my friends are going. So my parents made the decision, well, let's just get them to go to college. And who cares what you graduate in? Just go graduate if you can make it that far. At that point, I hadn't been hospitalized. I'm pancreatic sufficient, so that helped hide everything. um, but we went through college. I made it through. And now we were, well, 25, is that the number? So we didn't know what to do. So I just started working.
And that's what I was going to ask you as you're telling us this story. What does it mean to you to beat your life expectancy? And recently somebody was calling it, that I talked to, their expiration date kind of thing, which is another way to say it. But what did that mean? What were you thinking as you kept getting older and older?
What do you do?
Uh,
What do you do? I mean, you wake up and then you just get beaten down by this idea so many times and it keeps changing that you're like, forget it. I'll let you know when I feel bad and we'll just deal with it then, right? Because what are you going to do? And there were, there were days where I was working and I'd go back to the hotel room and I'd feel terrible, or I'd eat the wrong meal, like a heavy meal, and then the coughing fits would start and I'd have to excuse myself to the bathroom because then one, the cough, two, just it beating your energy out when you start having to purge something. You just like, what am I doing here? Why am I lying to myself? Why do these people care? Like, you start asking yourself these fundamental questions, and then you wake up the next day and you're fine, and you're like, okay, no problem. So, that's what we're dealing with. I mean, and it went into my 30s, and then at 30, the conversation was, can I go to 35? Can I go to 40? What's the number? You know?
yeah, but you kept a great attitude and you just kept going with it. You
Yeah.
have to. What
Yeah.
else can you do?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely beats the alternative. So of just, cowering down and you're worried about everything.
And what would you say has kept you healthy between just your own personal philosophy and your healthcare team?
Oh, man. That's a hard one. I think, when the doctors say, hey, numbers look good. Hey, let's watch out for this, but let's not think too hard on it. Let us worry about it. There was a lot of that with my clinic. They would say, let us worry about it. We'll let you know when it's a problem. It was a lot of that. And they did a really good job in the early, in my early 20s saying, look, I know you have a lot going on. Just enjoy it. Just try to stay in class, do well, and hopefully this will all work out and maybe a new therapy will come through, right? Because the
Yeah.
1990s, the 2000s, the 2010s, it just the acceleration of all types of therapies and medications and like we said, personalized medications that's really, really helped in extending that life expectancy.
Hmm.
So it wasn't until my wife, she said, I want to have kids. I want to think about having kids. And that's when everything shifted. I mean, when you become a parent, you know better than anybody. You may not do anything that's right for yourself, but when your kids are involved, you do everything possible. You'll move anything for them.
Right.
So when that happened, that's where like the paradigm shift happened in my head, where it was, this isn't about me. This isn't about my body. This isn't about telling people my story. This is just about trying to create a new family and bring healthy kids into the world. And is it possible? Because 10 years ago, 8 years ago, you could not Google or search on the web CF infertility. It just said infertility. There's infertility issues. There's fertility problems. There's, um, as a woman and a guy, they never just explained the two separately.
Hmm.
And it was just like, there's problems. Please reach out to a reproductive urologist or reproductive.
So you didn't get information until you were trying to have kids? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually, my doctor now, Dr. Donaldson at UNC, I had a doctor before that. And the social worker that was there, they said, congratulations on getting married. At that point, it was 2015. So it was 10 years ago, as early as 10 years ago. And the social worker came in and said, oh, do you know that you're infertile? And I said, what does that mean? And she said, well, you can't naturally conceive. And in my head, I heard something's broken. You can't fix it. You can't have kids. You're going to adopt. And my ears started ringing. And I remember that my doctor grabbed my leg at the time and he said, do you want to go home? I said, yeah, I want to get out of here. So I
Oh,
went home and then I started researching and there was nothing out there. Absolutely
wow.
nothing. I mean, the CF Foundation did a pretty good job of at least opening that door and letting you understand what was happening. But to be honest, there was nothing out there to either make you feel better or make you feel like this is a real opportunity instead of like this is a real problem and you can't fix it.
And I think back to 40 years ago and 30 years ago when my oldest was born, you had vests. If you had a vest, they were plugged into the wall. Enzymes encapsulated were relatively new still then. There
Yeah.
were no CF modulators, nothing about infertility.
And you were beating your kids with
Right.
the
That's
therapy.
how we started with
Yeah.
yeah. So it has grown quickly, you know, comparing it maybe to some other diseases that are still on a slow process, but you've learned so much and then you kind of start using this knowledge to share with others as you're figuring out kind of what you want to do with your life and where you want to go.
Oh yeah. You're exactly right. And you as a parent, how did you adjust to life expectancies? I mean, how do you say to your doctor, like, are we still on tracking at 18? Are we still
Right.
tracking for 30? How do you even recover from it?
Right? There's so much trauma, right? For everyone, I remember like crying at every CF appointment in the beginning and trying not to cry in front of your kids, but or crying because they want to know.
Yep.
And And you just have to learn to accept that instability of knowing when it's going to be the end. And I know none of us know when our end is coming, but it's different, I think, when you have a chronic illness, you're thinking about it
It's
every
in your
day.
face.
It's in your face. It's annoying to say it as without swearing. It's like, so yeah, it's and it's so much different for you because you're living it. And then as a parent, it's different because you're watching it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think watching it would be absolutely terrible.
yeah. I mean,
Living is one thing, but watching, you can't do anything. That's got to be worse.
well, I think they each have their own place. I don't know about worse because you don't know how someone's dealing with it, but I think both of us and your parents, we have great attitudes in the face of so much uncertainty.
Yeah.
And when we first met and every time we've talked, I hear that from you.
Yeah.
I hear your hope and your reality of it. And I like that. I think it's really helpful, in your journey. And you must too, obviously.
Yeah, I'm feeling better about it. I think and I'm sure we'll talk about what I've been doing the last 2 years, but
Yes.
when you can repurpose that energy and say, okay, well, let's all do it together rather than basically spending the last 39 years alone on it and hiding it. Um, to be and say that we're all in it together, we will pick you up. It's a
Hmm.
completely different energy. It's a completely different, I mean, solar system, to be honest, because you're trying to help other people, and that energy alone could fix everybody's problems, in my
Right.
opinion.
And we're going to get to your foundation, but first I wanted to ask you, when we first talked, we did talk about dilemma that you brought up when people start on CF modulators and then their health gets better, but it jeopardizes disability benefits.
Hmm.
And tell us about what you experienced or found, and then kind of what your thought process was.
Yeah. So if you were born between 1970 and 1990, in my opinion, the data shows that we've been told constantly that your life expectancy's kind of scaling up years before your expiration date, right? So I was born in 1984. They said 18, 19 years old max, have him enjoy it. Spend as much time with him as possible. Around 14 and 15, they said to me, well, try college. Let's see what happens. Because it was uncharted territory. Now with the modulators and the enzymes, and I mean, they don't even talk about Trikafta yet, but then they got us to 25. Then in the 90s, they got us to 30. And I'm sorry, in the 2000s, they got us to 30. And now we're just sitting here and we're like, oh man, Trikafta comes out and it busts us from 40 life expectancy and 46 to 65 and beyond, especially if your pancreatic's sufficient. So the CF Foundation has done an incredible job doing this. But what has happened? Other levers have popped. And that is the people that weren't as lucky as me and didn't go to college, but then realized they could live longer. They missed the boat. They missed the window on saving up for college, on starting classes. That have started classes, they now have problems where if they have to withdraw for a tune-up, or God forbid they have a lung transplant coming up, they have to withdraw and there's no landing spot for them afterwards. I mean, they could literally lose the tuition. But bigger than that is, in order to get disability um, for I guess for your lungs, you have to provide documentation that you've had all types of lung infections and you've been hospitalized for it over the year. You have to have an FEV1 below 50% constantly. And there's other items that come into play and other factors. If you're on a modulator or you're on Trikafta and your lung function goes from 40 to 70%. And not only that, but your lung infections are lower because your mucus buildup isn't there anymore, and you're healthier. Now you have a real problem, because if you're 26 years old, you're immediately kicked off of your parents' health insurance if you don't have disability. So now you have this person, this human, that may not have gone to college, may have tried it and couldn't and withdrew. You have a 26-year-old now that has to get a job because the Trikafta is legitimately changing and redesigning their entire bodies and future. And health insurance now is a real problem. Like, imagine one of your kids or you talking to me and me saying, and I know this for a fact because it's happened to a couple of the patients that have come to us, is I'm taking Trikafta, which is covered by my health insurance, but it's making me too healthy. And now I have to get a job. And if I get a job and I'm off disability to try to make it on my own, I'm not going to have health insurance to get the Trikafta. And that is a real, real, real sobering problem.
Scary.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge impact. So then we move to you starting your foundation, the Filotimo, did I pronounce it correctly?
Yeah.
Filotimo Foundation. So tell us about the name
Yeah.
and how you got, I mean, you're a baby in the nonprofit world now. I just, so tell us about the name and how you got started.
Sure. So when I was 38 years old, there was another nonprofit called Spiritus. And Spiritus, for the last 10 years, has been providing hardship support for adults with CF. They did that because their daughter passed away from CF. And right before she passed, she said to them, please take care of the adults because we feel like the forgotten crew. And all of my friends are here and they need help. So please help them. So for the last 10 years, they've done so successfully. And my doctor, who sits on their board, had said to me at one point, as a CF patient, look, Spiritus is going to go away at some point. They can't do this forever. It's just Robbie and Helen Link. It's just a couple, and they're getting older. They're going to have to stop it at some point, and we don't know what we're going to do for the CF patients. So that's when I had been thinking about it for a while, and we do donate now and then to other foundations, but for the most part, I said, okay, well, I've been thinking about it. I'd love to fix it. And I did. So for a year, I spent time understanding the UNC health program and really dialing in our processes and eligibility requests, while at the same time trying to take as much of the load off of Spiritus to transition to our foundation. And as I got bigger, I thought, okay, well, I don't want to just do UNC. I want to do other programs. I want to do other states. I want all 40,000 adults in the patient registry and growing to be covered by someone. And so I said, okay, I'm going to start this foundation called Filotimo Foundation, which is a Greek word that means to help someone with nothing in return. And that's what we've done. That's our mission statement. And as we got bigger, and as these other pulmonary clinics decided to onboard, and more so the partners that we've decided to onboard, they would say, what's your contribution to the CF community? I mean, why? Why did you pick it? Because they assumed I was just picking it to pick it, and rightfully so, right? And it just organically, I just looked myself in the mirror one day and I go, if I don't tell people I have CF, this thing's dead. There's no foundation.
People needed to relate to you.
I had to relate in some way, like, what's this idiot talking about?
Why is he doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really when I said, okay, this is bigger than me. I can't support people like me without them knowing I am one of them. And I can't tell somebody why we need help without telling them why.
And let me ask you this, and you can tell me if it's not a fair question, but was it because Is it your dad, or you had a pretty high profile business in your community, so
Right.
they knew who you were, but they didn't know about the disease side, the chronic illness part of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we had a manufacturing plant and it manufactured exhaust products, so mufflers, catalytic converters, stationary engine equipment, and we sold the company. And when we sold it, up until 2014 or 2016 when we sold the company, I was in sales. So the hope was not only, hey, the the founding member of the company is my father and I was doing sales, but I also on top of that did not want them to pity me or
Mm.
make me feel like they were doing me a favor. I wanted to earn it on my own merit on
Mhm.
both those fronts. So they also didn't know. So I would travel 4 days a week for 5 years and nobody knew. I just handled it on my own. So that became, I never wanted to really tell anybody because of that reason towards the end, towards
Mhm.
my mid 30s, which was, I mean, that was 5 years ago. But it's too late. I mean, I had to, when we're doing a partnership locally, and in that partnership, the woman said to me, "Why?" And I go, "Because I have it." And her face went pale, and she said, "Okay, you should have started with that." And I felt so stupid, right? Because it was harmless. I mean, it didn't bother me. I was happy to say it. She reacted correctly. She was super sweet about it. And I was like, okay, I can do this.
I was going to ask you about the reaction of everyone.
Ugh. Some not so great, it's weird. You expect certain people to be there for you and they're not, and then you turn around and there's three more right behind it that are there for you. So the I've spent the last probably 2 years nurturing all those relationships instead, and it's made me a much happier human being.
Did this mean anything to your parents? Because I think if I could not have talked about CF because my kids didn't want to say anything, that would have been hard for me as a parent.
Yeah.
Did this free up your parents so they could be more open about it, or did it impact them at all?
Oh, it's impacting them.
I mean, obviously, but
I
yeah,
mean,
I meant,
my parents immigrated here from Greece. They have their culture and their own traumas in their lives. Um, I think it's been hard for them, but it's out of their control. So I think that's made it a lot easier.
since you went public with it, you
Hmm.
think? Yeah,
Yeah, and their trauma is from 25 to 65 years old. It's not from born to 40 years old. I mean, their 40-year gap becomes a huge part of their lives.
hmm,
So it's not that it's a lie, it's that it's hard to uncover that and talk about it. But they're getting more comfortable with it. It's a lot of like, why didn't you tell us from friends and some family, but they're like, look, this was, we made the decision after the doctor died
right.
that we were just gonna let it run, and it just got away from us. I mean, he's 40. What do you want me to tell you?
Right.
You
And
know?
there's no right or wrong way, like you said in the
No.
beginning. It's whatever someone feels comfortable with, and when you decide to share it, that's when it's the right
Yeah.
time. And we did pull it back when the girls went to college. It was up to them to share. Things shifted for them. They decided that was the time. They didn't want to
Yeah.
talk about it for many of the reasons that you were discussing. What is your hope and your plan for the future of your foundation?
So we provide hardship support. So that could be rent payments, mortgage payments. You're trying to get into college. You need a career building support. So resume building, career coaching.
Hold on. We need to go slower with this because I think, first of all, the rent, the utilities, no one else is doing that. I know a lot of foundations. That is really important. Like, bravo, because there is such a need for that.
Mhm.
We do financial assistance, but we don't do rent. We don't. So that's huge. And for people listening, and
Yeah.
there are going to be a lot of people who are like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't." I don't know anybody who's doing this. So that is huge.
Let me put it into perspective as a person with CF trying to become a human being. This is about um, trying to claim some of your life back with a disease that's just been stealing your future away from you. You're at your parents' house, you're at a friend's house, you're on disability, you're trying to survive, and you say one day, okay, I'm going to be an adult. I'm done. I need to start my new life. They find an apartment, they start paying rent, they start supporting themselves holistically on their own. They get a job. They're doing everything correctly. And then what happens? They get a bug, they get sick, their pancreas is just having a rough couple weeks. They've just been told they're diabetic, type 1 diabetes, and they have to go to the hospital. They need to spend 2 weeks. They don't get paid for those 2 weeks. They now have a medical bill they need to pay. And the utilities are coming up. The a car breaking down is coming up. Like the life is going to hit them so hard and so intensely that getting off of the medication, going back on disability is by far the easiest path. And I refuse to let them do so. If we can fix it right then and there, stop the bleeding, try to get them propped back up so they can keep their job. And why wouldn't we try to do that as a foundation so people can, they get set back a little bit and we push them forward and they get set back. And then the third or fourth time, maybe we fix it. And maybe then they're on their own.
And can anyone apply, or is it so it's not just people in North Carolina?
No, we have 12 pulmonary clinics currently approved.
And you do it differently. We talked about this than the Bonnell Foundation. People have to apply to us, and then once it's approved by the committee, then they get their funds. But you do it through the social workers.
Right. So how we do it is you provide an eligibility request form and you say, I go to this hospital. We have a drop down of approved hospitals, but that doesn't mean that your pulmonary clinic's not approved. That just means that we have to go one more step. So think of it this way. If you go to a hospital, Frank Hospital in Oklahoma, I'm just making something up, and you're a patient there and we don't have you approved, you still send in the eligibility request. You say, look, I have a utility problem. I will email you back and say, okay, please send your social worker this email and tell them you would like to approve the entire clinic for support, for hardship support. You will be the person to unlock this for your clinic. The social worker will come to us and say, okay, what do we need to do? Honestly, we just go through the onboarding process. We say, look, we're trying to support all of your patients. We want to create a nice channel from them to us, but we need approval that this is a patient with CF. That's how we validate it. So Sarah will send us a request, say that Frank Clinic is my clinic. We don't have you approved. The social worker contacts us, and then we say, okay, you're onboarded, essentially, and we add the hospital. And that's it. After 9 to 12 months, we'll do an audit with the hospital, with the social workers, and say, this is a support we're giving. This is how we're giving it. And do you agree? Like, are you happy with this, or are we missing the boat somewhere with your patients? Is there something else you want to offer? And we just kind of tweak it and adjust it, just like personalized medication, personalized hospital support, essentially.
And then now we're getting back onto, now what else are you doing?
The other half is, remember that trauma I told you about with the fertility where I panicked and I went, we are trying to change that. So we're trying to let people know we will offer fertility support. Right now, our partnership is in North Carolina because that's the easiest, but we're looking for another fertility partner that is both nationwide and within a couple states that we can send people to. We'll work out a program, and then we'll either partially or fully support that fertility clinic and that fertility process for that couple. But in that whole idea and whole process, we want to break the stigma and we want to create more information that says, okay, a male born with CF, it's fixable. You have to do a sperm retrieval, but it's the vas deferens that's underdeveloped, and you need to do like literally a sperm retrieval to get the sperm. We'll freeze it, and then we'll ship it to your clinic, wherever you want to continue your fertility treatment. For a woman, she can get pregnant. I mean, even with CF. But there's predetermined genetic testing that has to be involved to make sure that the husband or the other spouse is not a carrier. If there's an egg donor involved, what does that mean? We need to test it for genetic mutations. And even though there's a sperm retrieval, a female also still has to go through the entire IVF process. There's no other option. So we acknowledge that, and we know that we can't just stop at sperm retrievals. We have to support the woman or the person carrying the baby as well. So we do that. And recently we finalized a program with Gift of Adoption, which is a national program.
Okay.
And they're going to help us with adoption processes around the entire country. So if you're looking to adopt a baby, we've created that program, and come on over. We'd love to see you. We'd love to have you and make this process a little bit easier. And they're aware. The Gift of Adoption is very aware of CF. They understand how chronic diseases work, and terminal diseases in some cases. That's our whole objective, is to create a nurturing environment for these people that if they want to start a family, I'm not saying no.
Right. And it gives so much hope where there really wasn't that kind of hope or help or support before.
How can I have 3 healthy kids, and have a way to give it to someone else and not offer that way? That's the biggest shame I could ever give myself. So I will do anything I can, both through money and through support, to create a nurturing environment for these people to go through this absolutely grueling process of IVF.
Now, when this podcast airs, your fundraiser will be over. But I love the story about your first fundraiser selling out in how many days?
10. Yeah, we sold out in 10 days. The support's there. The idea of taking this nationwide is there. And it's shown itself through, this support has been unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And I couldn't have expected it. I hid it for so long. Mm-hmm. Finding out that it's not a pity situation, it's actually, let's all gear up and do this together, has been an experience I don't know how to recreate.
Wise words. And I did want to ask you, on this same kind of vein that you're talking about right now, is you just sort of answered the question about what are your hopes for the future for your foundation. But what do you hope more people understand or start doing, for cystic fibrosis?
I believe awareness is the most important thing. There are other families out there like you, like me, who exist that may be early into the process and want to know how to help, or want to know what they can do with their tools to support the CF community as they get older. We are that platform where we want to be the people that say, okay, you have a fertility clinic in Ohio. We would like to support. We would like to offer a program that can get anybody in Ohio fertility support. Great. No problem. We want to be that group that says, okay, we'll do it. Like, we'll create the partnership. And maybe there's another family in Ohio through awareness that says, okay, we'd also like to donate or support financially that fertility clinic or hardship clinic with the pulmonary clinic in Ohio. Let's say there's Cleveland Clinic over there, and there's a family that wants to support CF and don't know how. If they don't know how, we'll help them. We'll help them get set up. We'll help them fundraise on their own. We'll help them donate on their own. They can take this over. I'm really excited for that type of idea.
And I know too, we talked about this before we even did this podcast, but the Boomer Esiason Foundation has a fertility program. I think you said you've talked to them, you're working on yours. So there's so much growth. It's wonderful to see. Even my daughter said, neither one of my girls needs a lung transplant, but now they're talking to them about it so that at least they have knowledge.
Yep.
So even if you're not even thinking about getting married and you're a man with cystic fibrosis, at least now they're educating you about it. So when you get to that position, you're not going to pass out or feel woozy in the doctor's office, with that information.
Yeah.
So what is your message to parents who have newly diagnosed kids who are going to be growing up now as we close here? Kind of how do you want to leave people with moving forward in CF?
You decide what you want to do. You can either tell people or you don't have to. I mean, there's obviously the two options, but there's no wrong answer. I truly believe that the right pulmonary clinic is out there for your children or your child, and never take what they say as true. You need to do your own research, and you need to spend your own time trying to understand the disease. These life expectancies now with Vertex Pharmaceuticals and Trikafta and other modulators and enzymes, they're saving us. So lean on them and try to get those questions answered. And if you can't, we're out here. Just email us, call us. We'll help you. You should not feel lost in an era where these medications are helping us live until 70 years old. I mean, we have to set up 401ks. We have to have conversations with our spouses about having a family. We need to go to college or finish high school and try to find a career, a real career. The future's out there, and it wasn't the case 15 years ago, but it's 100% the case today.
Well, that's a beautiful way to end this podcast. Thank you so much. Your contact information is in show notes. So if people want to get in touch with you or the foundation, they can do it that way. And thanks for adding another option for people as sort of the new guy, the new nonprofit. But we need you, and we need all of them. And it's good to be able to highlight what you're doing and everything that you're offering people in the CF community. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Thanks for everything you do. You're a trailblazer, that's for sure.
Thank you.
The original music in this podcast is performed by Kevin Allen.
It's not complicated.
Who happens to have cystic fibrosis.
We all got our worries and fears. I know it's got you frustrating, but loving you is so alright.
This has been the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast. For more information and to learn more about the Bonnell Foundation, visit our website at thebonnellfoundation.org. That's the BONNELL Foundation.org.
This podcast was produced by Jag and Detroit Podcasts. Follow our show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening right now.